Ciao, welcome to a new class. I'm Giulia and today I'll teach you about how to set up your Lightroom. Ready? Let's start. So, setting up Lightroom the right way from the beginning will save you so much time and so much headache. It will allow you to use the full capability of your computer, saving you lots of time and lots of frustration. So, not sure if Lightroom hates me or if the computer is just slow. Let's see how to set up Lightroom properly from the beginning so you don't have to do it years down the line. Right, so we're now in Lightroom and let's pretend this is the first time you've opened Lightroom. It's your virgin Lightroom. We go into Preferences. We can set up some things here to make sure that Lightroom runs smoothly and the best it can run and everything else. Now, obviously here you can set up your language. You can choose whatever language you like, English, Italiano, all of the whatever language you speak. Default catalog. This is important and I am just going to give you a little introduction on what catalogs are. So the way Lightroom works is it takes your images and when you do stuff to your images like editing, color correction, all of these, Lightroom creates a virtual copy of your file with all of these adjustments that you have done on your file and puts it in something called a catalog. So all of the things that you do in Lightroom will be recorded and stored in the Lightroom catalog. Now, you might have one big, huge catalog, meaning all of your images and all of the edits and all of the things that you do to those images, all the information about those images will be stored in one big Lightroom catalog. Personally, sometimes I like to have different catalogs based on different things. For example, I have a food catalog where I collect all of my food photography. I have a client catalog where I collect all my paid client work. And I have a travel catalog where I collect all my travel photography. Then you might have like a catalog for your family photos, a catalog for your dog photos, your cat photos, whatever. But having more than one catalog sometimes makes it easier for Lightroom to process those images, and it makes the whole thing a lot faster. So what catalog you want to open, you can tell Lightroom how to choose that catalog. So you can load the most recent. So whatever, when you, during your workflow, you're working on your food images, for example, today, and tomorrow you open Lightroom and you can tell Lightroom, hey, start from the catalog that I used the last time. Or I have set up that every time I open Lightroom, I can choose what catalog I want to use. And that's more convenient for me, but you can choose whatever you want. And as you can see here, I've got many catalogs. I've got the food photo circle catalog. I have the food catalog, the travel catalog, my portraits catalog. I forgot about that, for example. So every time I open Lightroom, I choose which catalog I want to work on that particular day. Here you choose that option. Now, here there are other things that you can check out and see what works for you. So show import dialog when a memory card is detected, meaning if you plug in your memory card, Lightroom will automatically open the import window. We have a class on importing your images into Lightroom, so check that one out if you want to learn more about what this means, basically. And a bunch of other things that you might want to fine-tune as you learn to use Lightroom. These will be a lot clearer and they will make a lot more sense. Personally, I do not have any of these ticked. That's, again, my personal preference. I know some photographers, they like to, Lightroom to automatically import their images when they put a memory card in. Personally, I don't like that. So as you learn how to use Lightroom, you will come back to these settings and these will make sense to you. And then you will be able to tell which options work best for you and your workflow. Same thing with the sounds down here. I set up Lightroom so that I have this sound. Oh, I thought it was gonna ding, 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 but no. So I have this sound whenever I finish importing photos, whenever I finish exporting photos. That works for me because sometimes when you export a large number of files, Lightroom might be working in the background for like, I don't know, 15 minutes. And in the meantime, I will be doing something else. So when it's done, it's going to ping me so that I remember, oh, great, my transfer is done, or my import is done, or my export is done. So I come back to Lightroom and I finish doing whatever I need to do. So for me, having these notifications is useful, but you can choose not to have them. So that's entirely up to you. Come back to these settings after you've used Lightroom for a while so that you know how to personalize it for yourself. But today we're going to look at some things that are great in general. Presets, we have a class on presets, so go check that out and you will learn a little bit more about all of these and what they mean. Today, we are going to look at external editing, file handling, and performance. So, what are these basically? External editing means after you do your raw developing and your basic editing in Lightroom, if you want to do more advanced editing and bring that image from Lightroom into Photoshop, how are you going to export that image from Lightroom into Photoshop? So what format, what resolution, and all of that. The best settings are TIFF file, because it's easier to use in Photoshop. Pro Photo RGB, this is the color space and color profile. Just trust me on these. If you want to do more research, go ahead. Pro Photo RGB is the most complete color profile, and that's why I choose that one, so that you do not lose any of the color information when you move your photo from Lightroom to Photoshop. You want to preserve all of that information so that you can work better in Photoshop. And that's also why you select 16 bits and not 8. Because with 8, you get rid of some of the information that is stored in the file. But when you work in Photoshop, you need all the information you can get. So 16 bits and resolution 300. And no compression, again, because you want to retain all the information. In the interface preferences, I always leave the default preferences because these are good. But what we really want to look at is the performance preference tab. Here, what is really important that you need to do on day one, second one that you open Lightroom is this. Here, where it says camera raw cache settings, you will by default have 5. We're not going to do anything with 5. So we need all the power. We need unlimited power. So you're going to put 99 just because that's the maximum that is allowed. What is this? Okay, why are we putting 99 there and going crazy with numbers? This is basically telling the computer that when you use Lightroom, the computer needs to give priority to Lightroom. So because Lightroom is a software, obviously, that takes a lot of power from your computer, like it requires a lot of performance. So you want to tell your computer that if you're busy using Lightroom, your computer needs to focus all of its power resources and performance resources on Lightroom. Whatever else is going on in the computer, your YouTube, your Facebook, your music, other softwares that you have in your computer in that moment, they come second. Your computer needs to allocate as many resources as possible on Lightroom. This will make sure that your Lightroom runs fast, smooth, and it will not crash. Because if you're developing a large amount of files, or if you're doing some like more advanced editing with brushes and clones and things, We have classes on all of these things, by the way. So if you want to go more in depth into Lightroom, check out the other Lightroom classes. But for now, just trust me on this. If you're going to do something a little bit more complicated in Lightroom, you want it to run smoothly and fast. And that's why you need to tell your computer to just give me all the power, because I'm busy on Lightroom. I need to make this edit happen and I need to do it fast. So give me all the power you can give me. And this is basically what it is. Another thing you want to get ticked is this one. Use smart previews instead of originals for image editing. I will explain more what smart previews are in the import class, so go check that out. But basically also this will also speed up your workflow a lot. So you might want to have this ticked. And that's pretty much it for the general preferences. Now we're going to look at the catalog preferences. So down here, where it says catalog settings, some settings are catalog specific and are changed in the catalog settings. So we are going to go into the catalog settings. By the way, you can also access your catalog settings from your menu and catalog settings. So it's just below preferences. So you can access it from preferences or just directly from here. Okay. So in the catalog settings, again, the catalog is like a folder of virtual information that Lightroom stores about everything you do in Lightroom. Now, here you can select the location of your catalog, and this is important because you have to place your catalog on your fastest disk. What does that mean? Now, if you're working on a laptop like myself at the moment, I am on a Apple MacBook. If you're working on a laptop, that's not essential because obviously you only have one hard disk. However, if you're working from a desktop computer that's maybe Windows, you generally have more than one hard disk. One will be your fast hard disk for where you run all of the processes and where all the power is. And another hard disk will be your storage hard disk, which is slower and not as powerful. So you want to store your Lightroom, have your Lightroom catalog in your faster hard disk, because Lightroom needs to process a lot of information when you do your editing. Therefore, having it on a faster disk will make sure that Lightroom can run faster because it can access that information faster and more smoother. So it needs a lot of power. So make sure that your catalog is on the faster hard drive that you have. Now, the Lightroom catalog doesn't take much space. So don't be worried about the fact that if you have, I don't know, like 1 terabyte of raw images, your Lightroom catalog will not be as big, not even close. So your Lightroom catalog will be a lot lighter than your raw files. So what I recommend you do, and this is my also personal process, how I do it, because I do a lot of my editing on a laptop, and MacBooks they're not famous for having the best storage. So my laptop only has like 1 terabyte of storage, while my image library is about 6 terabytes big. So obviously I can't store my whole library on my laptop. The way I do it is I have my Lightroom catalog on my laptop, so in my laptop memory, so that it can run faster. And then I store my raw files into my external hard drive because I don't need those to be fast. Like, I don't need Lightroom to access those files as fast. I need Lightroom to access the catalog fast. So the catalog is important that it is in the faster hard drive, and your raw files can be stored in another separate location. So your catalog and your raw files can be stored onto two separate hard drives. I will talk more about this in the import class, so check that out for more information. So basically here you can tell Lightroom where to store its catalog. And obviously here it will open your Finder and you will be able to select the exact location of your catalog. Put it somewhere that makes sense for you. You can call it, I have a folder called Lightroom catalogs and all my catalogs are there and I know they're there and they will always be there. And it's important that you keep your catalog organized. And I have more classes. We have more classes on how to organize your photography archive, your library, your catalog, everything. So change the location of your catalog to somewhere that makes sense for you, where you will find it and where it will be safe. Now, another very, very important setting here is about backing up your catalog, because sometimes, hopefully not often, it happened to me maybe twice, your catalog might get corrupted, meaning the information that is stored in your catalog might get corrupted, therefore you might lose some of the edits that you did to your images. And that's really annoying, trust me, because once you have your workflow set up and you've spent hours editing your images, your catalog gets corrupted, bam, you lost all your edits. So it's really important that you run regular backups on your Lightroom catalog. There are different options here. So you can set it up once a month. When you close Lightroom, once a month, it will remind you, hey, it's been a month. Do you want to do a backup? And then you say yes or no. Personally, I have it every time Lightroom exits. And this gives me personally peace of mind that I know that if I've done all the editing on like a session, let's say I edited my whole session, I am closing Lightroom because I am done with that session, Lightroom will back up that session. Meaning if tomorrow my catalog gets corrupted, I haven't lost anything, any work. If you do it once a month, what happens is that if on the 28th day of the month your catalog gets corrupted, you've lost 28 days of work. If you use it every day, obviously. But so that's why I do it every time, because I know that if I do even like the smallest edit, it will save it. It will be backed up. So I can sleep and I have peace of mind. And my catalog can get corrupted and I won't panic. I won't care because I have backups. Backups are so important. I talk about backups in another class, so check that out. Now, if we move to the file handling panel, here I generally leave the default options. I don't normally touch these because they're good enough for me. So if you want to have a look here, but they're generally good enough for the majority of photographers. Another important option that we need to check out is here in the metadata. Okay, now here, this little window, automatically write changes into XMP. It's not ticked by default. And to me, this is something, it bothers me. So I did actually write to Lightroom about this. So what is this? I talked to you about how Lightroom stores all of the information about a photograph in its catalog, right? Now, if you automatically write changes into XMP, it's a tiny, 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 tiny file that is put by Lightroom next to your raw file. So it's not in your catalog, but it's in your raw file folder. So where you keep your raw files. So in my case, it's in my external hard drive. And basically, what this is, it's a file that contains all of the information about that one photo. So if my catalog gets corrupted, or if I buy by chance I'm not using my own laptop, but I am doing editing somewhere else on someone else's laptop, or if I change laptops, or, you never know. At that point, it doesn't matter, because if I want to work on one photo and I have the XMP file next to that photo, whatever Lightroom I'm using, whether I have my catalog or not, Lightroom will read the XMP file and will apply all of the edits, all of the keywords, all of the metadata that I have for that particular photo. And this, to me, it's invaluable. And again, it's a tiny, tiny, tiny file, so it doesn't really affect your disk space, because it's something like 1 kilobyte, 2 kilobytes tops. But again, it gives you a lot of peace of mind. And if you automatically write changes into XMP, whatever small edit you do to your image, the XMP file will record and save that edit. So if you open the raw file into a virgin Lightroom, you don't need your catalog, Lightroom will be able to automatically apply all of the changes that you've ever applied to that image. So it's a very powerful thing. So make sure that you come here into the catalog setting, metadata, and you tick that. And once you've done that, that's it. Like, you can close your settings and you can start using Lightroom. Enjoy! So that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Ciao!